So today we are diving what really takes to do business in Central and Eastern Europe, not just the theory, but practical challenges and opportunities for international investors. So I have Isidro Helder from ConnectaVerse, and I have also Béla Kakuk from BPiON with me today. Isidro, ConnectaVerse supports cross-border growth. What's the biggest misconception companies have about expanding into new regions? Tell me.
Hello. So we've been helping hundreds of companies already expanding their business around the world. And a lot of the clients, when we talk to them about what they want to do, they want to plant a flag into the country and they think the business comes by itself. So we've seen a lot of companies that they miss kind of the go-to-market strategy or the product market fit for that specific country. So what we help them a lot with is finding out whether their product is ready for that market. And then we go into a stepped approach of what does it take to actually set that flag in the country? So how do you set up the company? What are the timelines? What are kind of the typical pitfalls that we try to avoid? And they need somebody that guides them along that process. It's not just hiring a third party that can incorporate your company for the cheapest price, but it's somebody that actually holds your hands and helps you set up in that new country in the best possible way.
Entering the new markets is always challenging. Is CEE that much different from other regions, Béla? What makes you in BPiON as a trusted partner in CEE?
I think, as Isidro said as well, you should have a certain strategy entering the market, and it's not different with Central Eastern Europe either. So the thing is, Central Eastern Europe, even if it's part of the EU more than 20 years, however, it has all its specialities. And I think it comes from somehow the culture. And once a smart person told me that I shouldn't use the word cultural difference if I spoke about Western Europe versus Eastern Europe, because this happens among rather continents. However, there is a certain, first of all, language is an issue. So the thing is, and the lack of the euro as a one single currency. So these two things definitely make things easier in the Western Europe, and it does not exist in Central Eastern Europe. That's why sometimes it's a must-have to use local companies who help you with the guidance. And on the other one, as I told, every country has its specialties, especially at the very beginning of the life cycle of your venture. This is, I think, very critical, that you should start your company according to all the laws and regulations and guided by somebody who know the tips and hints in order to get it onboarded well.
And that's BPiON, or that could be BPiON. So you created this ebook together with ConnectaVerse. Who exactly is this ebook written for?
The ebook is written for all the investors interested in the CE market, and we try to create an ebook which is not extremely compliance heavy, because we've seen that many of the ebooks are rather for experts, for professionals, financial professionals. However, around the investors, there should be financial professionals. However, the investors themselves shouldn't know all the compliance details, but they are still interested. What are the risks and the rewards? And this is what we wanted to highlight, why we believe Central Eastern Europe is still a good investment, and what are those, what we call its manageable risk, what they should face. And BPiON and all of its partner companies are happy to manage on their behalf.
Isidro, how can this ebook help someone deciding whether to invest the region?
We received a lot of the questions from clients like, can you have some practical guide or some general information about the country? I think what this helps is in this ebook we had different countries, so the different countries in Central Eastern Europe. We highlight some of the kind of the advantages of these countries and why they will be interesting for companies to invest in. Now, some of them focus on specific sectors. Even though you're not in that, for example, the automotive sector, still you can see some information that's very specific for a country, which helps them in their planning. it's very good, very important for our clients to know what is the corporate income tax rate when you want to go into a country. Yes, you can Google, but we just put everything together in one document so you can easily go through it.
Isidro, why is Central Eastern Europe such a compelling region for business expansion? Tell us.
Yeah, so Central Eastern Europe really evolved over the past years, right? Where we've used to think of, Eastern Europe or Poland, that would be for outsourcing business centers. I think over the years that really evolved and they really created their own economy. So Poland, for example, is a very stable, strong economy within Eastern Europe. I think it's the biggest economy within Central Eastern Europe. And they created also a middle class. So there's their own economy. So it's not only just outsourcing, but we actually get access to kind of the market itself become more interesting. And then the second part is how after COVID, the world became way more kind of accessible for people to hire people anywhere abroad because people were living in their own country. You don't need to set up a outsourced business center to tap into the local talent in these countries, but you can actually look for talent, hire them, for example, on an employer record, or an easy way to hire them from a non-resident employer perspective. So you can hire people much easier now than it used to be, which means that the talent and also the cost efficiency of that talent becomes available for the wider region. So a lot of companies are now considering, hey, I'm actually looking for talent for a good price. Let's find somebody in a country and hire them there in Central Eastern Europe. So that became much more accessible for companies to actually go into the market and do business from and with people that are living there.
So Béla, what's the one strategic advantage of doing business in CEE that often gets overlooked?
Yes, I think that the talent issue is very, very interesting topic, and it's similar what Isidro mentioned as well, that these countries has their strong economy, unlike decades ago when they were rather at the lower scale of the global supply chain. What is very important from the talent that what we can see, especially in Poland, then in the last couple of years, lots of talents from abroad came back. So from US, from UK, and all around the world, they had their success in the first decades of the life when they are start working. Some of them created their own even entrepreneurship. And what we can see that these people came home and bring all the knowledge what they get, and they leverage on this knowledge. So the thing is, of course, every country, I think, claims that the talents are young and powerful and energetic. And I think it's not different in Central Eastern Europe either. However, I think the real power comes that there are really certain entrepreneurship spirit in these countries, which helps the investors that the talent issue is usually not their own issue as it is, because there are companies, there are people who hire them to pool all the talents they needed. And I think they do very successful, and every country follows a certain different route. If you see Poland was, I think, very successful of integrating millions of Ukrainians into their market, and these workforce gives lots of power and advantage to the country itself. And I think many of the investors enjoy this nowadays, and you can build your business around that one.
Isidro, do you see any other trends in the CEE markets?
Yeah, it's kind of following what Béla just mentioned, is that we used to have, I used to work in many years in the outsourced business practice. And we saw a lot of clients it was kind of inbound business opportunities. So we looked for clients that were setting up in Central Eastern Europe. But over the past year, since the economy evolved more, we actually see more and more opportunities for Central Eastern Europe companies expanding outside of their region. It's the other way around. So a lot of outbound business opportunities, which for me means that the economy has evolved and companies have started to do their own business in the region and then start to expand outside. And that's something that I've seen only in the past, couple of years, where this really became an opportunity for us as well to aim for clients that are in Central Eastern Europe and have a focus in what they can do outside of the world.
And what regions are the origins of inbound investment into CEE?
The inbound that still attract business from abroad. We see still Romania as a very interesting country especially for the cost efficiency. Obviously, still Poland has been very important because the economy is very, very interesting itself. So foreign companies try to want to invest into Poland. And then we have Hungary that had attracted, I think, about 10 billion of foreign direct investment in 2022. So those are really countries that are attracting still a lot of foreign direct investment. And at the same time, they're evolving and they have companies that are expanding outside. So it starts to get a better balance.
And from what regions are those investments coming from?
So traditionally, it was mainly Western Europe, United States that were setting up their outsourced business centers there, and we see more and more actually Asian companies getting into the market. I've spoken a lot with Béla about kind of what do the Chinese investors do, and should we set up, for example, a focus of Chinese companies investing into Central Eastern Europe? So we see also there a little bit of a shift of companies that are setting up in Central Eastern Europe.
Béla, can you mention any or highlight any of the unique business opportunities in each CE countries, such as Poland, Hungary, Romania, and maybe others?
Definitely. So I think if you see the global news, of course, automotive industry, battery factories, and this kind of investment, the news are about. Okay, but we all know that these money search its places based on completely different circumstances and objectives, like the investment you are asking about. So I think what is very important that other than this geopolitical investments, there is not even one industry which I think rules the market. However, what we can see that yes, Romania is still talent of lots of IT and technology people in every layer. So there are companies with thousands of people, there are certain unicorns, and they're still doing extremely well. Especially there is the western side of Romania, Cluj, and this region, which still a hot topic if you would like to invest in this area. In Hungary, more the big investment rules, what I have to say. And as Isidro mentioned as well, that Hungary plays a critical role on the, I think, global supply chain. So many Chinese investors find its way how to enter to the European market. Why Poland? Since it has a huge internal economy, then Poland is big as it is. So that's why whatever you would like to invest, you should always check whether Poland should be on the radar, such as even if you invest in energies. So what we can see that there are lots and lots of alternative energy companies entering into the market, whether it's solar panel, whether it's wind, and Poland is getting more and more powerful in these segments as well.
Okay, Isidro, can you share us any real life examples where regulatory complexity delayed or even put off track any company expansions?
Many. So we cover 60 countries. So we see in a lot of countries a lot of regulatory environment, especially when you look at Netherlands or Luxembourg. In that sense, Central Eastern Europe is much easier, but obviously there are also some specific elements that you need to consider when you expand into the country. So we look at this from, for example, accounting requirements, especially in Poland, where you need to have the accounting done also in the Polish language. So some of our clients, they think, well, we do everything everywhere in the world the same. And then they come into Central Eastern Europe, and then we say, well, you need to do part of the accounting. You need to have your own trial balance and it needs to be in Polish. They were like, what? I thought Poland would be so easy. So some of the clients, they don't really understand what the local requirements are. And then when you look at the regulatory framework, for example, when you sign your agreement, the original needs to be sent also to Poland instead of just a PDF. There's a lot of things that, let's say, that the local requirements require them to do what they don't know. So that's why it's very important that they need to talk to a good advisor, for example, with BPiON, to have a conversation about what is the local requirement that we need to do besides just setting up the entity. and then they can build their internal processes around it. Because otherwise they go into the country, they have the company set up, and then the problems start. So better work with one company that can do the incorporation and also understands what the subsequent requirements are. Otherwise they will have a problem later down the road.
Béla, what are the most common challenges in administration or finance in CEE?
Yes, the most common challenges, and again, I just refer to Isidro, is definitely the language. So the thing is that even if the communication with the local authorities, everything is fully digitalized. However, this is mainly in local language. That's why many companies entering into the market cannot just trust on their international finance resources. So this is one thing. The second thing are, I think, challenges which might be similar to other countries. The one and the biggest challenge, I would say, opening a bank account. So I think it's no different, because the whole banking sector, there are international financial institutions, and they have to follow the same rules for anti-money laundering and similar. They have to identify the ultimate beneficial owners, and it could easily take months. It could easily take months, because I think this is one of the way how the government would fight against illegal money flow, and yeah, that's why it's lots of hurdle. In the past, I remember that usually we charged it 1-2 hours. Now sometimes this is the most critical and most significant and most expensive element in our offer toward the companies. But that's why I think it's very important that we have local partners, because, for example, BPiON, we work with all the multinational financial institutions. We know them. Plus, we could create a package, and we could recommend certain financial institution based on the potential habits of patterns of usage of payments of the companies itself.
So local expertise is essential, right?
Local expertise is essential. That's very critical. And even if you believe that the local expertise is finding country manager, no, a country manager, it's very critical. However, financials are financials, and I think you have to either find the way how to create your own financial department, or outsourcing is the option, and outsourcing to one of the biggest providers in this region.
Isidro, when it comes to entity setup, how should the company decide of the form they are about to set up? If it's a brand, subsidiary, or go by EOR?
The most frequent questions that we get when our clients come to us, they ask, well, I want to set up in a country, what do I need to do? The standard, normally they go in with a limited liability company, because that's the mindset, like, I need a limited liability company. But that's why it's so important that you have a conversation with people that kind of listen to you, what you plan to do into the country. Because what we first have a conversation, right? What are your activities? What are your plans? Do you plan to have revenue? Yes or no? How many employees you want to hire? We want to understand why they want to go into the country. And then we help them either through an employee of record setup, or setup of a branch, or a limited liability company. And especially the combination, the questions between, do you want to do activities in the country, or you just want to hire talent? That's the big, let's say, question between whether you want to have an employee of record solution, so that the employees are hired by a third party and then they hire them back to you, let's say, or whether you need to set up an entity and then do the entire process. There's a big difference also in sense of timelines and costs involved. So if it's only one employee and you don't really enter into the market, but you want to hire the employee, then EOR will be a very interesting solution. But if this employee is actually a non-EU resident and you need to have the permit, then sometimes the EOR becomes challenging, because not all the EOR companies, they have the possibility to hire and support visa. So it depends on what they want to do. And that's why it's so important to have a conversation with somebody that understands the entire cycle, and that they could guide you towards the best solutions from a local regulatory perspective.
Béla, can you tell us how do tax and accounting rules in CEE differ from what Western European or US companies might be used to?
It differs a lot. It differs a lot, because still, according to certain regulations and above certain threshold size, companies are allowed to report, to issue their financial statements according to the IFRS rules. However, the majority of the companies are subject to the local GAAP, and the local GAAP is different in each and every country. So again, that's why I think having a local professional who takes care about your accounting duties it's very important at day one. And many of these duties are happening at the first couple of weeks, months of the lifetime of the company, such as, for example, you have to pick lots of taxation varieties. So many companies has, or in many industries, they have the option to choose which taxation method they follow. However, you have to choose wise, and once you did, usually you cannot change it within a year. So that's why these are extremely critical decisions.
Isidro, what are the most common compliance risks companies overlook when expanding to CEE?
Yeah, I think Béla also mentioned that previously. One of the biggest challenges is opening a bank account, for example. When a company knows how to expand, they normally have a KYC pack or a compliance pack ready, available that they can use. This is something that's very important before you can enter into the market. You need to process the KYC, provide all the KYC documentation. The KYC is Know Your Client compliance documentation. That opening of the bank account can sometimes take more time than they expect. So when you do the incorporation of a company, you can do that in a couple of weeks, maybe a month and a half. But then when you open the bank account and it takes longer, that is sometimes a risk also for the business and for the planning when they want to go into the country. So that's the first part of let's say the compliance challenges. And then come the second part. When you say compliance, you need to be compliant with local legislation. And the local legislation, obviously, in Central Eastern Europe depends on the country. And it's country by country, it's slightly different. They have the standard normal requirements, but you need to make very sure that you speak with your local provider that really understands what the requirements are for your business in that country, and also what the regulatory framework is. So again, I would recommend to work with a partner that really understands your business and that they can kind of translate that to the local requirements that you would have, so that you can build it into your process when you continue with your expansion into the countries.
Béla, I'm asking you if you can mention any compliance rule that would surprise a Western or Asian investor when coming to CEE.
What I would mention is definitely the variety of taxes. So the thing is, usually everybody asks, what is the corporate income tax rate? What is the VAT? What is the personal income tax rate? And you more or less have a view that how the tax regime looks like in a certain country. However, in Central Eastern Europe, usually the investors are surprised the variety of small, teeny tiny taxes, such as, for example, in Hungary, an average company should face more than 50 different taxes, and some of them are really, not that huge in certain amounts. But if you add up all these small things, it's not just about the tax itself. However, it's very much the compliance duty what is important in order to submit these tax returns, in order to do proper calculations, to do the registrations. Because at the end of the day, Central Eastern Europe, I think, is doing relatively good to be competitive compared to other countries or other areas, especially European areas, to be extremely competitive. They decreased the social security and the personal income tax and the corporate income tax relatively well in the last decades. So I have to say these are the overall taxation, it's okay. However, the small tiny taxes, these make the difference. And especially there are certain countries such as such as Hungary, for example, where there are the local municipality tax, the local tax, which has to be paid. And some of these taxes are completely opposite to the system and the logic of Western European taxation. So that's why I think when we start doing business with the new investor, the educational part is extremely important. That they should understand that what they should face, what are the options, as I mentioned, because there are certain options to minimize, to defer taxation, or to pick a completely different legal form in order to minimize your tax payment liabilities.
Isidro, have you seen any businesses failing due to lack of professional and thorough planning when coming to see any stories?
So I've seen, especially in the front end, when they want to get into the country, I've seen a lot of conversations. We've had a lot of conversations with clients to explain why the fees for service providers are the way they are. Because they think, I'm going to Central Eastern Europe, labor is cheaper, and process, they've done a lot of business outsourcing process, so it should be much easier. But they fail to understand, they don't know yet exactly what Béla mentioned, that there's a lot of taxes that need to be paid. Or from a payroll perspective, that a lot of different elements need to be arranged on the back end. A lot of manual process as well, but a lot of regulations that need to be followed, that in almost all the Central Eastern Europe countries, based on which those fees cannot go down because the amount of time that they need to spend is much higher than when you go, for example, in the Netherlands or the UK, where the regulations are much lighter. So I've seen a lot of massive discussions and a lot of waste of time of clients saying, well, oh no, this is too expensive, I need to do something cheaper. And then I come to another provider and then finally they find something cheaper, but then they find out that half of the scope is only included, half of the services is included in the scope, and they need to do much more later on. So I think this is especially in the beginning when they try to find the right partner, they need to find a partner that really helps them and holds their hand. And you can't do that for the cheapest price that you have in mind, like, oh yeah, Eastern Europe is cheap, right? So that doesn't really match, and it takes a lot of time and effort in the front end. Now, once they set up their business, then obviously the planning needs to be done well, and they need to know which taxes need to be paid. All right. And when you go into Hungary, you hear it's 9% corporate income tax. Amazing. But you have all the other taxes that need to be paid and they come on top. Then that doesn't fit into the budget. And then when they have the first year done and they find out that there's so much more to be done, then the budget doesn't fit with the original kind of the forecast and the budget. They don't match. So I think that's where, again, they need to have a good sit down when they start and go into the country to map out all the obligations and then go ahead and go into the country rather than the other way around.
Isidro, payroll often looks to be very straightforward until it's not. So what are the main complexities of payroll in CEE?
We start with, again, let's say the setup. People don't understand that there's much more to do than just running a payslip. We are actually at this moment helping a client from India going into Poland. And I thought, well, we can easily do this with employee of record. But getting people with the visa sponsorship and getting the people in, it was such a discussion and so challenging to do. And you can't only just set up an entity and then hire all the foreigners because you don't have that visa application yet. So especially when you look at hiring from outside of the European Union, there's a lot of complexity and regulations that need to be taken into account, and also timelines, because you just can't do it from one day to another. And where some of the clients fail is when they say, well, I'm going for the cheapest possible option because it's a standard process anyway. It's not, right? So when you go with a very cheap, for example, employee of record provider, they can tell you like, yes, everything is covered. Until you actually dive into the details, they might not have the required licenses, or they say they can sponsor, but they actually can't sponsor, or they don't have the right benefits for your employees. Try to find out really what the service scope is, and also find out why they are the cheapest, right? Most probably the scope is not really fit for what you need. So have a good review of what you need. Tell them what your plans are and also how many employees you want to hire. And then you go through the different scopes and ask for one or two proposals, but make sure that they really understand what you do and not talking to somebody that doesn't know the local requirements of the local market.
So Béla, then how outsourced payroll can help companies investing in CEE?
Outsourced payroll can have lots of different topics, and usually everybody asks payroll. However, I always say payroll and HR. So I think it's very important that first your HR, your department or outsourced department, which is responsible for the input for the payroll, it should be done well. So again, you have to prepare it. Above a certain size is a must-have. Of course, majority, even the big factories, when they come, they started with one employee, then it's 10, then it's 100. So it's not easy to run a super efficient HR department on day one. So that's why I think the most critical decision should be whether you just outsource payroll or whether you outsource payroll and HR. Completely different risk and completely different rights and liabilities in a contractual term. So it's very important, and I have to say that outsourcing HR it's not easy, because outsourcing payroll it's I think much more easier on the small scale where usually the big investors are. Of course, at the big scale it gets extremely complicated. However, at the small scale, in order to run almost all HR processes, that's I think the essential of a good input and the quality data and report. With the payroll, technology is definitely the issue number one. So the thing is, everybody knows that at the end of the day, there should be a local compliance software. And usually this is not the problem of the investors. It should be taken care about the outsourcing provider. However, nobody would like to do manual entry of data. So the question is that when the payroll calculation is done, how the data will given back to your system, what kind of global system you runs, what kind of data exchanges you support. Of course, cybersecurity, it's a huge risk nowadays. So that's why a proper preparation of defending against these issues are super critical. So I have to say that the payroll and HR is a lot more than just the calculating of the personal income tax and other contributions. However, that's very important that with outsourcing solution, you get access to a working ecosystem. So our colleagues knows definitely HR. We are happy to help remote. We are happy to work on your site. This is definitely on the menu of a good outsourcing provider. And I think for investors as well, they should very much screen the technology potentials of the chosen service providers. That's very essential.
Selecting a service provider must be much more than just Googling. So how Isidro ConnectaVerse can help companies to find the best local solutions?
Yeah, that's what we that's why we created. So we start first with a conversation with the client to understand what they want to achieve, right? And I think when a client wants to go into a country, again, when they just want to hire one person and they don't have activities in the country, does it really make sense to set up an entity there and go through the entire process of opening a bank account and doing all the accounting? Or would it be easier to work with either a non-resident employer solution so that you hire the employee by your head office or by one of your regional hubs? Or would you go for an employer record solution so you don't have to set up your own entity? But also there's a lot of questions that we then need to ask, whether you have a permanent establishment, yes or no, whether it's possible, what about the seniority of the people? So I think where we need to go is understand what they want to do, and then we normally give them several options, depending on what they want to do. If you want to set up a factory and you have 1,000 employees within the first year, that will be a completely different provider than when you start with 1 and you scale up to 10. Right, the technology, what Béla mentioned, if you have 1,000 employees, you need to have a very solid process behind it that's very much automated and can build on an interface with the HR system that they have on HQ. If you only have 1 or 10 employees, it doesn't make sense to build something like that. So then it's much easier to work with a smaller firm that is a bit more that has less of these standard processes and long-term, let's say, setup processes. So what we do, we connect the client with the partners that we think are the right match, depending on what they want to achieve. And if you go online, you Google and you find payroll processing, you don't know exactly what their real expertise are, but we do. So we listen to the clients, we connect them directly with a local provider, and then they discuss the scope. And if they're not happy, then, or if they want to have a second opinion, then we connect them with another party that can also give them the conversation, have the same, talk about the scope and talk about what they actually need. But the key element is that they need to talk to people that are in the country and understand the local requirements. And we do that matching. And we make sure that that goes well. That's what we stand for, and that's what we do all over the world, especially in Central Eastern Europe. This is a very important part, that you have somebody that understands what you want to do, and they guide you through the local complexities.
Béla, as BPiON being partner of a strategic partner of ConnectaVerse in the CEE region, what do you think? What does the BPiON ConnectaVerse collaboration offer that other solutions don't in CEE?
In CEE, it's definitely, as Isidro mentioned as well, you should have the right partner. So Isidro and ConnectaVerse acts like a global matchmaker. BPiON is a regional company, so BPiON already covers multiple CEE countries. However, as the global economy changed a lot, and the new money is searching their way, that's why it's very important. It's not just the money flows into the Central Eastern Europe, but the money flows out of Central Eastern Europe as well. That's very important. And that's why I think ConnectaVerse is a good partner, because whether it's Asia, whether it's America, they could find you the right partner. And not every partner fits to every company. So as a CEO of a service provider in 4 countries, I could say that it's definitely the match sometimes doesn't exist, but it's not a problem. So that's why I think companies like ConnectaVerse is extremely important, because they could guide through the very early baby steps of your investments, and that's extremely critical.
Isidro, where can listeners download the ebook, and how can they get connected to you?
Yeah, that's easy. So you can go to our website, theconnectaverse.com. We have a landing page where you can just easily click. You get the ebook. You can also send me an email, or our team, or you can ask the BPiON team. You can go to Béla, to Balázs, ask, hey, can we see the ebook? Because it's free information that we give to everybody. We created it together with BPiON. They actually created a lot of the content. They are the local experts. We created it together. We want to give this to the world. Anybody that has an interest in going into Central Eastern Europe, I would advise them just to go through that document. And if they have any questions, just reach out, because we do all of this. We want to help companies really set up in these countries. And we've learned a lot over the past 20 years, for me, Béla, for you as well, something like that. And this is just information that we've gathered, and we want to give it to people, like, just avoid some of these problems that we've seen in the past. And then we connect you with the right partners. Coincidentally, we send a lot of our clients to BPiON because they have this approach of the consultative way. They help clients understand what the requirements are. And for us, that's very important, that we can help our clients go into this international journey, because they all are very enthusiastic. We're going to a new country, but then they don't know the local challenges that could come up, and we can help them. And together we do that as a team. And the ebook is just one of the elements that we share. And if they have more questions, they can just reach out.
So first step of entering to CEE is downloading the ebook from the ConnectaVerse website, right?
Yeah. That's easy, and we can share also the link. Step 1, step 2, set up a call and talk to us, because then you can understand what you want to do, and you can also hear a bit of the experience of the local experts.
Béla, if you could share one advice for investors entering to CEE, what would that be?
Invest into CEE. So that would be the one advice. The thing is, as I mentioned at the very beginning, CEE is a manageable risk, but lots of opportunities still. So there are many reasons why investors would like to, whether it's talent, we discussed, whether it's one-time opportunity, or whether it's just a vehicle in order to enter into the European market or to get into the global market. So the thing is, there are multiple options. However, CEE is a good managed risk option. And I think this is what the international money, especially nowadays, are looking for, the managed risk. And this is definitely what Central Eastern Europe can provide. And of course, once you made the decision, there are lots of additional risks you have to face, financial risk, tax risk, but this is why we are here. This is our mission, this is what we live for. We start our day every day. So we are more than happy to help all these investors.
Great. So then see you in CEE and get connected to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.